Well, you can see the whiteboard, right? So recall that yesterday we have defined this Cartesian product of two graphs, or simply we also say product of two graphs because we are not, discussing other kind of products here. So this Cartesian product, you remember Cartesian product of two graphs G1 and G2. Okay, that notation we have used is this G1 box, this G2, well, and you know the adjacency, relation that it's vertex set, you remember that vertex set of this, this product G1, G2, just you remember it is the usual that set product or the Cartesian product of two sets. Okay, BG1 and BG2, this Cartesian product, right? And the adjacency was that x1, y1 will be adjacent to x2, y2 if and only if it satisfies either this first condition you just remember that they agree in the say first coordinate x1 is equal to x2, y1 should be adjacent to y2, or the second condition is that x1 is adjacent with x2 and agreeing in the second coordinate y1 is equal to y2, any one of these two. Well, so I have given example of that, a cube, that cube graph. Okay, so here we shall define in general actually that n dimensional hypercubes or cubes also we say. So this the one we have seen actually yesterday, the usual one, that is called three-dimensional cube or three-dimensional hypercube. So that three-dimensional cube, usually but now we can have this any n-dimensional cube for any n greater than or equal to 1 we define. So here we define n-dimensional cube, or people also say hypercube. Cubes or hypercube. Both these terminologies are used. So how do you define these n-dimensional cubes? Well, here I will give you a definition of this n-dimensional hypercubes or construction, you can say. Construction of these n-dimensional cubes using this product operation recursively or repeatedly. So here we define this n-dimensional hypercubes. It is usually the notation we follow here. The notation is Qn. The notation is Qn for this n-dimensional hypercube. Here n is greater than or equal to 1 is an integer. Okay, n greater than or equal to 1 is an integer. So here this Q1, how this Qn is defined, n-dimensional hypercube. So this Q1 actually we take as K2. Okay, you remember that K2 is this graph. Well, and then this Q2 will be defined by this Cartesian product of Q1 and K2. Q1 and K2. Okay, Q1 and K2. Okay, then Q3 will be defined as that Q2 product with this K2. I mean, each time or in general, this Qn is defined as Cartesian product of n minus one dimensional hypercube with K2. Okay, this product with K2, this will be fixed actually. And that n dimensional hypercube we obtain from n minus one dimensional hypercube. So this is how we define. Look, this Q1 is simply K2. So what is this Q2 actually? How this will look like? This Q2. Q2 is basically that Q1 is K2 only. So K2 with K2, this product, Cartesian product. What do you get this one? Do you know this graph? Do you know this graph? Have you seen this before? Huh? Who can
C.
say? Huh?
C4.
See?
C4.
Yes. You get this one is C4. Yes, right. You are right. So this Cartesian product of K2 with itself, K2, actually this gives you C4. Right? I mean, you get this C4. And yesterday I have drawn Q3 for you. Right? Q3 is that cube only. So how, what would have been, okay, let me draw this Q3 also another way you can draw. Huh? That the one we have drawn yesterday is your, that usual, that, I mean, cube, that skeleton of that usual cube that you had seen. Basically, you draw your cube like this, that you draw this cube in this fashion. Okay. And this Q3 also we can draw in this way. See, look, both are isomorphic. This is again another way of drawing this Q3, three-dimensional hypercube. That also we can draw in several ways. The same graph, both the drawings are isomorphic. Right? This is also Q3. This is also Q3, right? Is it not? They are isomorphic, these two. So this is Q3. So how could I have drawn this Q4 then next? Q4. What would have been this Q4? So this Q4, see, I have told you that whenever we consider this Cartesian product of two graphs, here we are taking this Q3 is, Q3 we obtain that Q2 product with K2. So K2 is having two vertices. K2 is having two vertices. So therefore, and this Q3 is C4. So therefore, I have taken two copies of C4. Two number of vertices is 2 in K2. And I have made, and in K2, those two vertices are adjacent. So therefore, the corresponding vertices of these two copies of C4 will be adjacent. Right? This is how I have drawn. This is Q3. Understand? Well, it is clear to you, this Q3? Okay. So then Q4, how could I have drawn? Q4 you could have drawn, you could have taken two copies of Q3, two copies of Q3, and then you have to join the corresponding vertices of this Q3 actually. Understand? So this Q4 you could have obtained. That several ways we can draw actually. I can put, I mean, one inside other, one cube I'll put inside the other, the way I have drawn here. One C4 I have put inside the other one. So similar way you can draw, several ways you can draw this Q4. So let me draw quickly how it looks like this. This is one Q4 and the other Q4 I'll put inside this and then join the corresponding vertices. So another this C4 I'll take here and we will join. This is another Q Q3 I have taken. I have put one Q3 inside the other Q3. Okay, and then you have to join the corresponding vertices. Okay, so I may correspond this, I mean, inside vertices with this inside one. You may, I mean, join this. Okay, this. Okay, and that outside vertices with this outside one. You could have. Oh, what I did. This one is. Okay, so this Q4 will look like this. Okay, right. This is how that Q4 you could have done. This Q4 structure of Q4 will look like this. Four-dimensional hypercube. Fine. Any question? Any query? Anyone asking anything? Okay. See, another way also we can represent this n-dimensional hypercube. This is one way that we have defined recursive way using this Cartesian product, this operation. And another way that we can also have this n-dimensional hypercube, that description, another way we can define. So here actually I shall consider a graph like this. I'll construct a graph like this. So I'll give a construction of this graph. So this I'll give a construction of this graph. This is a construction. So here I'll construct a graph like this. So let G be a graph with vertex set of G is this set of all n tuples of 0 z 1s. G be a graph with, wait a minute, so here let us take this with Gn. Let Gn be the graph with vertex set of Gn be all n tuples of 0s and 1s. N tuples of 0s and 1s. I mean, this vertices will be n tuples. And here n tuples of 0s and 1s. So I can write like this, say A1 zeros and ones of length n. I mean n tuples, or you can say strings of zeros and ones of length n. So this AI is equal to 0 or 1. Understand? So this is n tuples of zeros and 1. This is what the vertex set of this Gn. And how they are adjacent? And two vertices in Gn are adjacent if they differ in exactly one place. So with vertex set of Gn is this, and two vertices in Gn be adjacent if and only if they differ in exactly one place. Differ in exactly one place or one position, actually one place, or you say one position, exactly in one position they differ, then we get that adjacency. Two vertices will be adjacent. Well, so let me give one example. Say let us see this example of G3. Let us see this example of G3. Well, see, for example, if we consider this graph G3, so what is the vertex set of G3? vertex set of G3 will be how many, bodies is this G3 will be having? So here, I mean, that that tuple is consisting of three components, three tuples of zeros and ones, or we can say that the bodices are that strings of zeros and ones of length 3. Okay, so we may write actually the bodices of G3 like this, that 0, 0, 0. If you want, you put in the tuple form also. Okay, either I'll write this A1, A2 to AN, or simply you represent as A1, A2, okay, A3 like this, AN. Huh? Either you represent as a string kind of thing or tuples kind of thing. Okay, it doesn't matter. So this 0, 0, 0, that I'll have this, that 1, 0, 0, okay, that 0, 1, 0, sorry, 0, 1, 0, I'm writing in string form, and that 0, 0, 1, like this, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, right, and that 1, 1, 1. So strings of zeros and ones of length 3. This is what the vertex set of G3. And adjacency will be if they differ in exactly one place. Say for example, if we take 0, 0, and this will be adjacent with 1, 0, 0. These two vertices will be adjacent because they differ in exactly one place, this first place. They are agreeing with the second and third positions, and first position only they differ. So therefore it is adjacent. Whereas this 0, 0, 0, this will be not adjacent with 1, 1, 0, because these two bodies they differ in two positions, first and second position. So therefore they are non-adjacent. Well, how this graph look like this G3? Can we draw this G3 be like this? So this graph, so here that 0, 0, 0, I'll take this vertex 0, 0, 0, and it is adjacent with 1, 0, 0, and also this is adjacent with that 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, and it is also adjacent with that 0, 0, 1. Okay, these are the three neighbors of 0, 0, 0. Fine. And then, well, I can take this neighbor of 1, 0, 1, 0 and 1, 0, 0. Okay, this vertex here, you see, this will be your 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. 1, 1, 0 will be adjacent with 1, 0, 0 and 1, 0, 1, 0. They differ in exactly one place. And then you can see the neighbors of these vertex, the other two neighbors. Let me complete this figure. Okay, and you see actually we will get this is your Q3. We get this is your three-dimensional cube, and this vertex will be 101, and this is 011, and here 111, right? And you see these adjacencies is also there. They differ in exactly one place. 111 and 110. They differ in exactly one place. Here they also differ in exactly one place. They also differ in exactly one place. Right? Okay. So this is the, that G3 is therefore, this is G3 and it is isomorphic with your, this is exactly Q3 in fact. G3 is Q3 only. So now in general, I'll leave this as an exercise for you that prove that this Gn we have constructed this way will be isomorphic to your three-dimensional hypercube. So prove that this Gn is isomorphic to n-dimensional hypercube. Okay. So this is another way of defining this n-dimensional hypercube, that considering that strings of zeros and ones, of length n and two are adjacent if they differ in exactly one place. Well, then next we are having another, class of important class of graphs. They are called bipartite graphs. So bipartite graphs, bipartite graphs, bipartite graphs, bipartite graphs means we should, able to divide the graph, the vertex set of the graph into two parts. So that is why the word, this adjective bi. Okay. Before that, okay, let me define. So here, we say that a graph, basically this is simple graph, a simple graph. G is called bipartite here, bipartite if vertex set of G can be partitioned as, if Bg can be partitioned as, you know this partition means partitioned as Vg is equal to say V1 union V2. Partition means you know that V1 intersection V2, they are empty. V1 intersection V2 is empty and their union is equal to this whole set. V1 union V2 we should able to write such that no two vertices within V1 or V2 are adjacent. Okay, first condition is that no two vertices within V1 or V2 are adjacent, and second condition is that for every edge in the graph, okay, every edge in G has one end vertex in V1 and one end vertex in V1 and other end vertex in V2. Okay, such kind of graphs will be called bipartite graphs. This graph G will look like this. This graph G should look like that. G will look like this. We should able to, write this vertex set of the graph. So this is your whole graph actually that we should able to express in this form. So here are some vertices that we should able to partition so that no two vertices within V1 are adjacent, no two vertices within V2 are adjacent. If at all adjacency is there, that will be between these two. Okay, that adjacency will be between these two parts. You should able to express the graph G in this fashion actually. You should able to express the graph in this form. So here, this pair V1, V2 is called a bipartition of this bipartite graph. So this pair V1, V2 is called a bipartition of G. If it is a bipartite graph, then this pair will be called bipartition. And V1, V2 are called partite sets also individually. Okay. V1, V2, they are called partite sets. We say partite sets. Well, example. Can you give example of a bipartite graph? Well, let us consider this. Here this cycle I'll consider. Say, let us take this cycle on 6 bodies. Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, so whether this is a bipartite graph? Tell me whether this will be a bipartite graph. Can anyone answer?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It won't be.
This will not be a bipartite graph?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Let me take that in one part. I'll keep the bodies as 1, 3, and 5.
Ma'am, it can be, no?
That's what I'm trying now, whether this will be a bipartite graph. And I mean, a graph will be called a bipartite graph if we will have such a bipartition. I mean, Vertex said we should able to partition. Okay, we should have 2 parts so that no adjacency will be within the part, adjacency will be between the parts. Okay, and in this second part, I'll take 2, 4, 6. Right, this is how I am getting a bipartition of this C6. This C6, is it not? See, no two vertices within the part are adjacent. 1, 3, 5. They form an independent set. Such set will be called an independent set. That I'll write down. No two vertices will be adjacent in a set of vertices. Then that is called an independent set. So, and similarly here also no two vertices are adjacent. 2, 4, 6. Adjacency is between the parts only. That 1 is adjacent to 2, 2 is adjacent to 3, 3 is adjacent to 4, 4 is adjacent to 5, 5 is 6, 6 is 1. This is what you see 6. Okay, this C6 we can draw like this, right? So therefore C6 is bipartite. C6 is a bipartite graph, right? C6 is a bipartite graph. Fine. It is all right. Okay. What happened to this? Suppose I will take C5. This is C6. Next, let us take this C5. What can you say that about this C5? Whether this one is a bipartite graph? The vertices say 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, ma'am.
1. This will be bipartite. Okay, then
No.
find it bipartite.
No, ma'am. It won't be.
No,
It won't be. It won't be.
It won't be, right? Okay, so
No
thing is
even
that
vertices are
suppose
there.
in this part we keep 1. So 2 is adjacent to 1, so therefore 2 we have to put in the other part. We cannot keep in the same part. Then what about 3? 3 we can, 3 is adjacent to 2. So therefore, and 3 is not adjacent to 1, therefore we can keep in this first part. And then 4 is adjacent to 3, 4 is not adjacent to 2, so we can place here in the second part. What about 5? 5 is adjacent to 4, we cannot put in the second part, and 5 is adjacent to 1 also. So therefore, this 5 cannot be placed in any of these two parts, right? So we cannot put 5 in any of these two parts. So therefore, C5 is not a bipartite graph. We cannot have such a bipartition for this C5. So C5 is non-bipartite graph or not a bipartite graph. Not a bipartite graph. Well, so from here, in general, what kind of statement you can make about cycles at least? For cycles, for cycles in general. So in general result for cycles, how can you, okay, let us write this general result. So for cycles, therefore, yeah, Cn is bipartite if and only if n is even, right? Yes, Cn n is greater than equal to 3 is bipartite if and only if n is even. If and only if n is even. If it is an even number, then you will have a bipartition. Otherwise, not. Okay. So here I was telling you that V1 and V2 in a bipartite set, they form independent set. Independent set means no two vertices are adjacent. So this, definition or this terminology will need. So, say let G be a graph, G be a graph, and this S be subset of vertex set of S if no two vertices in S are adjacent. No two vertices are adjacent. Then S is called an independent set. Is called an independent set. Okay, this S will be called an independent set. Okay, and see, okay, 1 minute. Where is the curve? Okay, this is called, I mean, no two vertices in S are adjacent in G actually. No two vertices of S are adjacent in G, then S is called an independent set. Okay, and this independent set, this concept actually, this is very interesting, and it has lots of application kind of thing. We do refer also. See, the cardinality of a largest independent set in the graph G will be called independence number of the graph also. Okay, because I am defining independent set, so I am telling about independence number also. Okay, so the cardinality of the cardinality of a largest independent set in G is called the independence number. This is called the independence number of the graph G. Is called the independence number of G, and usually this notation is also very popular, denoted by alpha G. Okay, this is called that, this is denoted by alpha G. Fine. See, if no two vertices in S are adjacent, we say that is an independent set. If every pair of vertices in S would have been adjacent, then that is called a clique actually. Okay, so if every pair of vertices in let G be a simple graph we'll take, because we are not considering this self loop or parallel edges. If every pair of vertices in if every pair of vertices in S are adjacent, then S is called a clique. S is called a clique. And the cardinality or the number of vertices in a largest clique, the number of vertices in a largest clique in G is called the clique number. Is called the clique number of G, and it is denoted by this omega G. That is called clique number. Okay. So, well, here, in a bipartite graph, In a bipartite graph, the partite sets are independent sets. Okay, in a bipartite graph, the partite sets are the partite sets V1 and V2 are independent sets. They are independent sets. Okay. So here we have seen cycles, even cycles are, they are all bipartite graphs. Even cycles are bipartite graphs, but odd cycles are not bipartite graphs. So can we have some more example of bipartite graphs? What we have seen so far? What can you say this about this hypercube? So shall I leave this as an exercise? That prove that all hypercubes, n-dimensional, all these hypercubes Qn are bipartite graphs. They are all bipartite graphs. Prove that the n-dimensional hypercubes, n-dimensional hypercubes Qn n greater than or equal to 2 are all bipartite graphs. These are all bipartite graphs. Can you see that? At least in case of, that three-dimensional hypercube Q3, at least you work out that. See, you can see for three-dimensional hypercube, you check that. And in general, you try to prove. Okay, in general, if you want to prove that this is a n-dimensional hypercube, how you are going to proceed? Think about this, and next week I'll discuss actually problems. Tomorrow I'll do also theory. Okay, and Saturday I'll take an extra class for you because you have missed. So Saturday only I'll take one extra class for 2 hours. Okay. So
Ma'am, what will
Saturday,
be the timing of that extra class?
Saturday, what time will be free? Evening. Tell me that Saturday what time will be free, all of you. So Saturday evening, if I take, will it be all right for you?
No, ma'am. Actually, Saturday evening I have a few contests that I have to give. Maybe in the afternoon or morning.
Okay, afternoon and morning or morning. Actually, morning, Saturday morning, say 10 o'clock or something. Are you free? All of
Yes,
you?
ma'am. Yes.
No, no.
I have NSS, ma'am.
Huh? Oh,
I have it.
NSS. Acha. Then Sunday evening only I can take, no? Sunday evening you are free, I feel. Sunday morning you may not be. Okay. So,
Sunday evening, yes, ma'am. After 7, like we can do it.
Yeah. Then Sunday evening, 7 o'clock I'll take.
Yes,
Will
ma'am.
it be all right? Okay. Sunday evening I'll take evening, Sunday evening, 7 o'clock I'll take. 7 to 9. 2 hours I'll take extra class. Okay. That is fixed then. Sunday evening, I'll send mail to all of you also regarding this. Fine. Okay, think over this problem that all n-dimensional hypercubes, they are all bipartite graphs. Okay, so how do you recognize bipartite graphs? Which graphs will be bipartite, which graph will not be bipartite? Is there any result kind of thing? Yes. Fortunately, there is a result, complete characterization of bipartite graph. So, what condition it will satisfy so that the graph will be a bipartite graph and when it is not a bipartite graph, any graph theoretical condition. So, it is that, see, a graph will be a bipartite graph if and only if it contains no odd cycle. So, this is the complete characterization of bipartite graph. This result, okay, this gives you the characterization of bipartite graph. We can say characterization of bipartite graph. bipartite graph. So a graph G is bipartite if and only if and only if it contains no odd cycle. Then it is a bipartite graph. Okay. I mean, if a graph, here actually we are taking simple graph. Huh? We are taking simple graph only. So if the graph contains any odd cycle, then that cannot be bipartite. And if it contains no odd cycle, all cycles are even cycles only, then that will be bipartite graph. Actually, I am not giving proof of this theorem because of lack of time and all. Otherwise, I will not able to cover that what I have asked in the exam and all. So anyway, I mean, you'll find the proof in books actually, in any graph theory book you, I mean, see. So you can read yourself the proof if you are interested. Well, so applying this theorem, now you can tell that whether Peterson graph is a bipartite graph. What can you say about Peterson graph? Whether this is bipartite? Remember that Peterson graph that the way we have drawn.
It's not bipartite.
Why? What is the reason?
Because it contains cycle of 5.
Yeah, cycle
five
of length
cycle is
5.
there.
Yeah, cycle of length 5 is there in Peterson graph, right? So it contains odd cycle. So therefore, the Peterson graph will not be a bipartite graph. Peterson graph is non-bipartite graph. Non-bipartite graph because it contains odd cycle, right? Well, so another important concept in graph theory, in any graph, not only in graph actually, in your, I mean, day-to-day life also is there, is, I mean, that is important is that the distance concept. Okay. So here in, I mean, in our real life, you know that without this distance concept, that we, I mean, it will be very difficult. Life will be very difficult, right? Without having this concept of distance. So similarly, in case of graph also, we are having this concept of distance. Okay. So this concept of distance, I mean, how can we have that distance function, whatever way you define distance between two objects, two vortices, okay, or any I mean between two objects or two places kind of thing. That distance, I mean, how should you define? And not only that, any way you define that is going to be a distance function kind of thing. That has to satisfy some condition, no? That has to be that is called, I mean, the distance function have to be a metric kind of thing, have to be a metric. Okay, so let me tell what do you mean by this metric and all. I'll tell you and how we define this distance concept in a graph. Okay, so this distances in a graph. So how can we define this distance between two pair of vortices? So actually here we define like this. So let G be a graph. Let G be a graph, and X, Y be any two vortices in the graph G. So then the distance between X and Y we define like this. The distance between X and Y, usually we denote like this, denoted by dxy, or if you are actually maybe dealing with so many graphs, and they might be having some bodies as in common kind of thing, graphs or in subgraph also. So if we want to be specific about which graph, then we may put a subscript dgxy. Okay, is the length of a shortest path between x and y. So this distance is defined as this is the length of a shortest path, shortest xy path, you can say. Okay, shortest xy path is the length of a shortest xy path. Okay, so therefore you see this distance function here we have defined. This distance function is a mapping. This distance function is a mapping from where to where? From the Cartesian product of vertex set of the graph with itself to these numbers. I mean, this distance will always be a non-negative integer. Okay, so this distance function here we have defined for a graph is a mapping from this for every pair of vertices. I mean, this mapping operates on pair of vertices, and its answer there is a non-negative integer. Okay, that is a non-negative integer. Okay, so here this distance function, any distance function you define. Okay, see, for example, the distance function you know, right? So several ways you can define the distance function, say from R to R cross R. Okay, to that, again you have this non-negative actually real number that you have this R union 0 that is allowed. See, one is that your Euclidean distance. One distance function you define is this. So here this d of xy is on real number. So you may have this x minus y, its absolute value kind of thing. Okay, this is one way you can define. Or if you define on R2, okay, you just remember that R2 cross R2, if you define, this is again R positive real together with 0. So here also you know that this distance function, that Euclidean distance. So this Euclidean distance, that you know the distance between this mapping, say d of, say you know this thing x1 y1. I may not say that x2 y2, that Euclidean distance or any other kind of that distances you can have, that x1 minus x2 whole square plus that y1 minus y2. This is your Euclidean distance you do consider, right? So this distance function should be a metric, means it should satisfy some properties. So this distance function we have defined for a graph, it satisfies that this d satisfies the properties that first one is distance between xy is equal to 0 if and only if x is equal to y, right? Okay, this is okay. I'll say this one. First, we'll say that this is greater than or equal to 0. Equality. This will be equal. This inequality will be equality if and only if x is equal to y. This is called non-negativity. This property is called non-negativity. If you will learn that real analysis course, I think you have not yet gone through, I think. So there you will have this, a distance concept, and if it satisfies these properties, next one will be your commutativity. dxy is equal to dyx. This is called commutativity. And third one is your triangle inequality. So this dxy will be less than or equal to for any other, I mean vertex here z, dxz plus dzy. So this is called triangle inequality. Okay, this is called triangle inequality. This is called triangle inequality. First one is non-negativity, then it is symmetric also people say. This one, second one is called symmetric. Symmetric, here non-negativity, non-negativity, okay, and symmetric triangle inequality. So any I mean mapping that satisfies these three properties will be called a metric. Okay, so I mean these three properties, if it satisfies, then that is called a metric. D is a metric. D is a metric. So several ways that people can define distance function in Rn also, not only that Euclidean distance. There are some other way of defining this distance function in Rn or in space or in any other kind of, I mean some kind of that mathematical that spaces. Later on you will learn that is a metric, those metric concept. Okay, so here in graph theory, this distance function we define like this. It satisfies the three properties. Well, first and second, easily the non-negativity and symmetric property you can see easily, that symmetry. Because that shortest path between x, y, that is also shortest path between shortest path from y to x also. But the triangle inequality, how do you prove this triangle inequality? For a, I mean, in case of a this in graph theory. So you think over this triangle inequality. The first and second will be that easy proof property third. That is property third. Enable. That is the triangle inequality. Triangle inequality. So here, think over this, this triangle inequality. Whatever exercises I am giving, you have to think about them, and in next week problem discussion and doubt clearing, there I'll discuss everything. But before that, you must have I mean give a thought on this. So this distance between two vertices in a graph we have defined. Let us see one example of this. I mean example of a graph. So this you will look at this graph. I'll draw, suppose. Here, suppose I'll have a graph like this. Suppose I'll have a graph. Okay, one more vertex. Suppose I'll take like this. And here I'll take in this fashion. So let us name the vertices, say here A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and here's a W kind of thing. So then you tell me the distance between, this is A, distance between here I'll tell you that distance between A and W, say. Distance between A and W will be what? There are several paths between A to W. Okay, but you have to look, say suppose if I consider a path like this, A to B, B to E, okay, and E to C, this path I'll take. Suppose I'll take this path. So length of this path is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for this path. Okay. So you are having a path. This one I have drawn. Its length is equal to 5. Okay. And also there are other paths. Say, suppose I could have gone like this. I mean, from F, if I could have moved along this G, H kind of thing, then their length will be increasing length of this path. But we are interested for a length of shortest path. So whether you are having a smaller path, I mean between A and G. So what will be this? I mean distance between that A and W. Whether you are having a path of length smaller than 5.
Yes,
8
ma'am.
to
4.
Yes, ma'am.
4.
Oh, yeah, we can have this one, that is 4, right? It is like this. And I think it is already time, and so therefore, I think I was thinking of covering so many other things, but I could not. Anyway, tomorrow we'll continue this. And it is okay. For this, we'll continue. Okay. Tomorrow, rest of the things. Anyway, today it is a late time.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Okay, that's all for today. Yeah, if you have any query, then you please.
Ma'am, can you take the extra class on Friday evening or afternoon?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can take. No problem. Okay, so, acha, why not today evening also? Can I have? Huh? Today evening, let us take, na? Friday morning, you are having 2 hours. So today evening, if you are free, then I can take it. Let us have one class today evening also. Okay. And
At what
tomorrow
time, ma'am?
evening also.
At
Instrumental.
what time?
What happened?
I'm asking at what time?
Yeah, evening 7 o'clock.
Ma'am, I have NCA instrumental from 6 to 9. Ma'am, can we please take it earlier?
Earlier. Okay, then 5 o'clock, are you free, all of you? 5 to 6, 1 hour I can take at least.
Yes, ma'am.
All of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then today 5 to 6 I am taking. Okay. Achha. I'll take extra class today 5 to 6, all of you. Okay. Otherwise, I will not able to finish actually. Somehow, okay. I mean, this is online class and I can't also move very fast. It is just not possible. Okay, then today evening 5 o'clock we are meeting again. Okay. Bye. Till then.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.